So far you have seen how to create post API request using static API request body and dynamic API request body. In this video, I will discuss about how to create get API request using Playwright and TypeScript. So let's start with discussing the manual use case. So here I will go to the Postman. So firstly, we will create the booking. So here I'm using the create booking API. And once we created a booking, so by using this unique ID, that is a booking ID. So here I am going to the get booking details API. And in the URI, I am passing the booking ID here. If you see here, so currently 4237 is the booking ID. If you go back to the create booking, so this particular booking just now we have created. So we can get the resource details, whatever you have created in the application server by using the get API call. So let's click on the send button. If you look at the API response here, so we are getting the particular booking details, correct? So already we have automated the post API call. So let's automate the get API call. So we will add the get API call on top of the post API call so that we can validate the booking details. So what we will do is we will validate the status code and status text, and also we will print the API response body in the output. So let's quickly create the new spec file in the VS Code. So here I'm creating a new spec file under a chapter 6. So here I will give the spec file name as 04 get API request dot spec dot ts. So that's it. So here I will go to the one of the previous spec file, and simply I will copy the test from the previously created spec file. Then I'll come back to the new spec file and I'll paste it here. So let me maximize this window. And here I will say the test title as create get API request using Playwright and TypeScript. So that's it, guys. So let me summarize what exactly this code is doing here. So here we are just generating some test data by using the Faker plugin, and by using the get post API request body. So we are preparing the post API request body. And once we got the post API request body, so we are passing this to the our data property. And here we are making the post API call. And once we have the post API response, so simply we are printing it here in the line number 29, and then in the line number 32 we are validating the status code, status text and content type here. And then here we are validating the property names or a key names. And at the end, here we are validating the post API response body. And if you look at the line number 44, so here we are validating the booking ID. So we are making sure booking ID is greater than 0, correct? If you check this get API call, so in the URL we have to pass the booking ID, correct? So that's the reason what I will do here is, so firstly I will get the booking ID and I will save into the one of the variable. So let's start creating the get API call now. So here I'll say get API request. So here I will use the JSON post API response dot booking ID. Then I will assign back to the one variable called booking ID. So this particular property is returning us the booking ID. So that's the reason I am assigning back to the booking ID variable. That's it, guys. So by using the console.log statement, I will print the booking ID. So here I'll say booking ID colon, then simply I will pass the booking ID here. So that's it, guys. Now we have the booking ID. Now we can create the get API request using Playwright and TypeScript. So here what I will do is simply I will use the request.get method. So here I am calling to the method called get, and here we have to pass the URL, right? So if you look at the get API call URL, so this is a base URL, correct? No need to pass the base URL. Already we are passing it in the use method. So that's the reason we have to pass the slash booking, and booking ID we have to pass it here. So simply I will paste it here, and here we have to pass the booking ID. So this particular variable contains the booking ID. So simply I will paste it here, and I will put the dollar here. That's it, guys. We are done with making the get API call. So we will get the response after making the get API call. So that's the reason. So I will assign back to the one variable called get API response. So by using the response, we can validate the status code, status text, and also we can print the API response body also. Now we have the get API response here. So let's validate the status code. So here I'll say validate status code, then I will say status text. I will use the expect for this to validate the status code. So simply I will take the get API response, then I will call to the method called status. So this method will returns me the, sorry guys, so let me put the await here. So that's it. Now I can use the directly get API response, then I will call to the method called status here. So this status will get the status code of the API response. So once I'm having the actual status code, and here I'm calling to the method called to be, and inside this method we have to pass the expected value. So expected value is 200. So if you look at here, so 200 is the expected status code. So similarly, let's add the validations for the status text. So here I'm calling to the method called status text, and I will pass the expected value as OK. So we are done with adding the validations for the status code and status text. So let's print the API response body. So firstly, we have to convert response into the API response into the JSON. So that's the reason I'm using the await, followed by that I'm taking the get API response dot. So here I'm calling to the method called JSON, so which will convert your response into the JSON format. Then I will assign back to the one variable called get API JSON response. So that's it, guys. So once we have the JSON API response, we can directly print it. If you look at the line number 29. So here we are printing the post API response body. Similar way, we will print the get API response body here. So here I'll say get API response. So let me pass the get API JSON response variable here. So that's it, guys. So what we are doing here is, so we are converting the JSON response into the string, and here we are passing the, so whatever the JSON response, and after that I'm passing the null because I don't want to update this particular data, whatever get API response, sorry, get API JSON response data is containing. So if you don't want to update anything for this data, simply pass the null and to here. So this is for the spacing purpose. So that's a bit about the creating the get API call by using the Playwright and TypeScript. So we are almost done with creating the automation code for the get API call. So let's run the test and check the output. So if you see here, guys, so our test is perfectly working fine. So let's check the output here. So this is the post API response. Firstly, we are able to create the booking with the unique ID, right? With the unique data. And after making the call here, if you see here, guys, so we are printing the get API response also, correct? And also we are printing the booking ID. So this booking ID, sorry, this booking ID and whatever we are getting in the post API response booking ID should be matching. The same booking ID is passed on to the get API response, right? So our test is perfectly working fine. So this is how you can create the get API request in Playwright and TypeScript.